Welcome to another episode of Get Better Basketball Live. I'm Coach DeMarco, and today I will be joined by Coach Brock Bourgase, who's going to talk about post play and scoring inside. Coach Bourgase is going to take us through a number of different drills and post moves, and then share SSGs to help players perfect those skills. You're not going to want to miss it. Before we jump into it, make sure you hit that like button, turn on your notifications, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more great content each and every week. Another Get Better Basketball Live is up now. Coach DeMarco here with Get Better Basketball Live, and today I'm fortunate to have Coach Brock Bourgase as my guest, joining me once again. Coach, thanks so much for joining me.
No problem, Coach. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to our topic today because we're going to dive a little bit into post play, but really ways to score inside. So I wanted to start by asking you to maybe share your philosophy of, as a coach with your teams, scoring inside or post play. What does that look like for your teams, and what's your philosophy on that?
Sure. Well, I guess doesn't just have to be a post up. So ways to get the bigger player involved and give them high percentage scoring chances aren't just limited to us, punching it into the block and letting them go to work. I think these days it's hard to have a high school athlete who has all the skills and abilities to be great in the post right away. And it can take a long time to get the play developed. People might dig down and double team and so on. So we look for other ways to get buckets, and usually it involves getting the post on the move. And so it's a lot of times in practice we'll be teaching them, sealing or different ways to catch and finish on the move that hopefully will translate into a game. And just in terms of building confidence, I got the idea when I went to a Notori Messina clinic. Was, he talks about, simple things anyone can do, in the post. And that was like running to the rim and getting a bucket in transition, getting a putback, getting a quick seal, maybe in a dribble drive situation or after rolling to the basket. And he was saying, hey, look, if you get one of those per half and then you get fouled, you're talking, 12, 14 points a game from your big without, having a lot of skill. So then if you add the post moves on top of that, you can really, create a player who's effective and confident in a number of different ways.
You mentioned, Coach, opportunity to sail inside. And I like that you talked about rim running and, those things that don't take a lot of skill, but they're effort type plays in order to get those baskets. And you get some easy baskets. And, like you said, you add in the post moves and you could have quite a few points in the paint in the game. What are some of the other ways that you score inside? I know you talked about like a typical sail type situation. What are some of the other ways that your teams get the ball inside without maybe, a traditional entry into the post, but some other different ways that you do?
Sure. Well, I try to coach a bit of a passing triangle in our pick and roll situations. It can be tough sometimes for the ball handler to pass it directly to the roll man. But by getting a wing to lift or getting the ball to the other side of the court, sometimes the angle is a lot better for a seal there. Also there's a little drill that I do that's a 2-on-0 drill to just get the post and the ball handler moving together. Sometimes, so if the ball handler can drive and come to a jump stop, hopefully the post is in a good position to get a seal. Sometimes we get the ball, to the high post, in horns maybe. It doesn't necessarily have to, it's not like we have two bigs, but getting the ball to the elbow, I found is a good way to get the ball inside for a quick seal as well. We had a play last year that our captain was really, really effective at horns rip, just off of a little quick back screen as a way to get the ball inside. And then, if you have a taller guard, things like, a UCLA cut, horns flex, those types of cuts where, you just get them to stop and seal and maybe throw the ball in there if they have an advantage.
Yeah, those are some great examples, Coach. And I wanted to ask you, because people hear post play, or even when you add scoring inside, and they think immediately you have to have, a Tim Duncan or Kevin Garnett or Shaquille O'Neal, whoever, a giant post player that you can pump the ball into inside, even a Joel Embiid in today's game that, sets up shop underneath the basket. But I feel like more and more coaches are finding other ways, and you gave us some great examples of other ways to get the ball inside. And I wanted to ask, as part of your philosophy, will you? And it sounds like it from some of the examples, but will you teach your guards also to score in the paint and catch, either in the post or maybe off a UCLA cut as you described? Do you teach them as well to have a couple of a little move set in there to score inside?
Yeah, we do. So we give them, give everyone on the team some basic moves, starting with a inverted jump shot, jump stop, or just sort of that outside inside footwork, where instead of I coming out to a 2-foot stop, my pivot foot's going to be the one furthest away from the hoop. We teach them out of that to do a bit of a rondo pivot, into a bit of a hook shot. And then from the rondo pivot, show them both the Mikhail step through move and then also a Luis Scola drop step, so that everyone has a few building blocks to do. And just in terms of, we might do 3-on-3. Yeah, it's true some guys won't be going in there, but I think at least everyone needs to be able to know how to defend in there. So putting it, calling the post up for the guard, is a little more situational, but I think it's still worth, doing a small sided game every now and then, so they work on the defensive end.
Yeah, definitely a good opportunity to maybe get some easy baskets inside. And, sometimes that's specific to personnel. So I know we had an opportunity to talk a little bit before, and you said you had some good examples of some of the moveset that you described. So I'm excited to take a look at it. I know the coaches will like to hear or see some of that, those moves that you just talked a little bit about a few minutes ago.
So one of our staple drills, we call it Scottish shooting. Some coaches might call it the rainbow drill or the horseshoe drill. And we go through, it's a chance for everyone to work on finishing inside, because these apply, to people of any size, after a rebound, after a steal, after a drive. So pretty much, the first player just curls through around the no charge circle, gets a pass. The coach has a football blocking pad, creates a little bit of contact. And, it's also a good passing drill. They're working on their outside hand passing. And then, they alternate, going from side to side, just like the horseshoe drill. And we go, we run it maybe like 4 to 5 minutes. The first 4 moves we do are all inside. And they're kind of a inverted jump shot, inverted jump stop, power layup, a rondo pivot, a Luis Scola pivot, and a Mikhail pivot. It works, the inverted jump stop, your pivot foot's going to be the one furthest away from the basket, the furthest away from the defender. So you're going to land outside, then inside, because then it sets up other footwork. So here's Dwight just a few years ago is doing this at the end of a drive. And, it comes in there, and then that gives him the opportunity to go to a hook shot. So we kind of teach everyone first, just finishing from this situation, like just, finishing versus contact. And then the second part is this little front pivot into a hook shot. So they got, a couple of moves in case there is, contact. So a little guy maybe sees that there's a big defender, so he'd go into the pivot. The bigger player just might brace for contact and go straight up off 2 feet. So that's kind of our inverted jump stop. And then it also, the counter to that is the sort of the front pivot there. Rondo, because he's the one, who uses it the most in the league. Although, people like Derrick Rose use it as well, but on our team, we call it a rondo.
Yeah, very, very similar, obviously, in what they're accomplishing there with the spin back away from the defense, but both effective.
And then I think it's also these are just building blocks. The kids on their own, if they go to a hoop, they can start, adding on to these moves. So here's, a Scola, Luis Scola is, he sort of front pivots into the middle, which is just like the rondo. And then he's going to drop step back to the middle. And then again, you can do it a little bit like a spin like he did, or do a bigger drop step, kind of just, if you feel that the guy's trying to cut off your middle, we teach them to drop step back towards the baseline, just keep it high. The coach might reach in and strip him if he brings the ball down, just to keep, the habit of keeping the ball high. And so because Scola played for the Raptors a couple of years, we named that move after him. And then that way, it's sort of terms that the kids will recognize. And then this is a little older video. Quality's not as good, but it's an old one, but a good one, right? And I have to tell them who Kevin McHale is when we teach this move. But that step through concept would be the another thing to do if you try the rondo and you reach someone who's walled up, well, rip through and step around them. So again, here's just McHale going, and again, you can do this after a rebound. You can do it towards the baseline, towards the middle. It's really, really flexible. So those are 4 moves we want, every player to have. And as they get older, they build on it. But at least at the beginning, I've had a grade 9 join our senior team one year, and he started off, was playing volleyball, joined the season late, but I just feel like doing these moves, he just became a double-digit scorer just by finishing in the paint with a little bit better footwork. So I really believe in these moves and this footwork making a difference at all levels. And so those, we would teach those to everyone. And then when we go and do big little, then we might get more position specific. The guards might be working on specific footwork for their position, but every now and then a guard will come and join the posts inside because they want to work on that position, that footwork as well.
I don't think that Kevin McHale, probably footwork or moves inside, probably the best, or at least the top 5. But I mean, haven't had an opportunity to see him and watch a lot of Celtics clips growing up. Feel like he was the best in terms of that little up and under and just being creative in the paint. What I like about all these moves that you shared is, they're applicable for smaller players or bigger players, but the footwork and, players are going to learn how to finish strong and finish through contact, but there's also ways to be creative. And if you don't have, if you do have a 6'10" guy, they're good. But if you don't have guys that are bigger than everyone, these moves will work and help your team to score in the paint. So just thinking about your personnel, do you guys have that big type player, or you guys tend to be more middle of the road, and these moves must really work well for your team?
Last year we did. We had Zach Eady, who's a Canadian playing for Purdue. He was, played on the same rep travel team with our center. So our center was used to playing against big guys and banging and being creative. And we went through this guy at both ends of the court. He was, a great player for us. Previously, it's been like a lanky guy. 1 year was like a couple of hockey players because we were having a bit of issue with, our defensive rebounding. So we had to teach some hockey players how to, put the ball in the hoop at the other end. It's really, and going forward, it's going to be probably, hey, there's an open spot on this, at this spot on the floor. Here's what you can do to earn your spot and increase your role, and we'll see who has at it and who wins that battle in practice.
When you're teaching the footwork for those, the move sequence, I know like we saw Dwight Howard and we saw Rondo, and there's similarities in all the different types of move and the footwork, but is that something that you break down, or you do? I know you mentioned the Scottish shooting. Is that something you do a lot early in the season, and you're just teaching them, every player is learning these 4 moves on the team?
Yeah, and the drill can continue, and you can we add all sorts of things to it. But initially, you put like 5 minutes on the clock and go through it. 10 makes of each move. We go through as many moves as we can get to. So a really good group gets through like 9 or 10 moves or shots. But if it's a new group, I'm coaching a new team of grade 9s this year, where until we got kicked out of the gym because of the lockdown situation. We were taking a lot longer just to get that footwork in. You can take as much or as little time as you want. And then we also has a good warm-up drill. You just put 4 minutes on the clock and just get through as much of it as you can, keep score, maybe have both hoops compete, and then you move on to the next part of practice.
One of the things I like when we talked the first time was you shared sort of the progression of drills. So I have to ask now, we saw sort of an example with the Scottish shooting the drill. We saw the move sequence that you like to teach players. How do you help them to practice it in a live game situation? Or what SSG do you really like with your team to work on the scoring inside?
So here's how it might look on a practice plan. And I bolded the post component so you can see a little more. So, we would start off, we might show one of those moves in as a film clip, at the start, hey, here is a post move, or here is a post concept, just a little, 1 minute of video maybe at the start of the day, just so get people thinking about it. And we would put the Scottish shooting in as one of our warm-up stations. And although we go dynamic, we might get some transition drills where they're finishing on the rim runs. We, a few minutes later, come back and do our big little station. So we'd have one coach, usually myself, take the posts and do a couple of drills for 10 minutes. Maybe we'd start with sealing, and then we would do some kind of live one-on-one. And then we would go to a 2-on-0 drill, bring them all back together so they're working together. The posts know where the guards are going to move, the guards know where the posts will be moving, and lastly, play it in a 3-on-3 situation. So here's what that ceiling drill looks like. Like they have a line a little bit, on where the NBA logo would be. They can give the ball to the coach, and then they get a handoff, and either there's another player or there could be another coach, depending on the staffing situation, just to work on, giving them a bit of a contact, some contact. So we could start off just with, right in the middle of the key, just finishing right under the basket, then move the line a step away, big power dribble, into the middle. And then we can go, things like go into that Dwight Howard or Rondo hook shot, go into the Kevin McHale move, just quickly, and then everyone goes to the end of the line. We go 3 spots each just to get some reps, get the ball going in the basket. And so we might do that, for 5 minutes, do 4 or 5 posts on both sides of the ball. And then we would, again, do maybe, I like reposting it as a quick way to score. You don't like, sometimes you can't break a guy down, but just kicking it out, and the first look needs to be back in. The defense might relax a little bit and give them a chance to seal. So, here we would have, say, our post, kicks it back out. If you only had one coach, they could be the passer and this person could be a player. Or, if you had 2 coaches, you're a manager, that you could work on really, hitting the pad and sealing the coach. But just, we could do one-on-one out of a repost situation, like, just to work on passing it and immediately right away getting that kind of a seal. And then that would be the 10 minutes the bigs would do on their own. If we would do a lot of times, play one-on-one, maybe out of this, with one dribble out of this situation, see who's the winner. The other ones have to do push-ups. And then when we bring them back together, this would be in a concept that I would teach, 2-on-0 drive and kick. So the coach, player self passes the ball, spins it towards them. The coach directs them one way or the other. So if the coach sent them baseline, we'd want our big to come to the bottom of the free throw circle and tee up, just be big, show their hands and finish. And then if the ball came down the middle of the key, we'd want him to sort of circle underneath from dunker spot to dunker spot. And again, score with a good one, front pivot or a quick post move. And that would help them just get, the idea of moving as a tandem. And we might do that for 6 to 8 minutes. And then
Coach,
we might
that's just thinking about, we were a dribble drive team, so the relocation to the weak side and the tee up, that's some stuff that we did with dribble drive. So is that something that you picked up or you liked from that type of offense, or is that how you like to utilize that post play? Or are there times, I guess what I'm getting at, are there times where he'll be a strong side post too, where you might want that post on the strong side, or within your offense, do you tend to relocate, tee up, and use your post more in that way?
Well, I guess what I would like to see in an ideal dribble drive possession, which we call flow, is just everyone's moving in tandem with the ball handler. One of the reasons the Raptors are starting so badly at this moment is it seems like a lot of them are watching the ball and waiting for Fred VanVleet or Kyle Lowry to do something. We don't want that. So yeah, if he was it doesn't really matter. A lot of times probably a ball reversal occurred, and that's why this player has the ability to drive. So if, we were trying to post up, the ball got skipped and then that person was able to drive, that might be the situation here. And I add the posts to my dribble drive drills. So and I'll also make everyone play the post in the dribble drive drills, just so everyone sort of understands the movement patterns, the importance of being far enough away so that your defender can't stunt and then come back to you, the importance of coming to a hop step, changing levels on the pass so you don't commit a turnover. I think as the possession goes on, this type of situation might happen. And then also, as I mentioned, we don't always have a really confident post at the every year. So this is something that creates easy buckets for them, even though they might not want to be a primary post-up option at the start of every play.
I really like that you put all your players in that spot, because we know during the course of the game in scramble situations that players could end up there, or it could be a guard who just made a UCLA cut and ends up on the block on a skip, and anyone could end up down there. So it's nice that you put them all in that spot, and also really nice because the guards will fully understand what that post is doing and the timing and the movement. So I really like that you do that. And these movements are great because it really impacts the help defense. When that post relocates, a lot of times the help stands, and that's a great way to get an easy basket. So there's a lot of good things just in a simple tandem drill like this that you're working on with your players, and I think it's really helpful for them.
Sure. And then a lot of my practices will start 1-on-0, maybe to teach the technique, 1-on-1, 2-on-0, and then we end up with a 3-on-3. So here is a 3-on-3 drill. We can break them into teams of 3. We tend to usually have about 2 guards to every big guy to begin with, and we'll have them, stick with their teams of 3 so we can have a winner at the end of the 8 or 10 minutes. And just basically this action here. So the ball, gets, dumped into the post, and then the passer screens the nail. That's something I've tried to do, the last couple of years. If the passer gets confused and, cuts through instead, that's not the end of the world. We've hit that passer. We've hit, in a 5-on-5 situation, someone diving from the weak side, but this might be just the start of the situation. And then the shooter, uses the screen here. One guy goes to the basket, one guy stays high, so they have to communicate. And then it's live out of this situation. You could repost it, you could hit a cutter, maybe it gets kicked out and that person drives again, and we're into that sort of tee up dunker spot situation. And here's a video of the Raptors running it as they're out of bounds action. Golden State runs it a lot too, but this is from last week. The ball is going to get punched right after right on the inbounds. There's the idea. The San Antonio can't quite dig because they're occupied a little bit with this screen here. And I also I ripped this clip because I really liked how Siakam uses his elbow here, just to get a little space. Like he's going to use his elbow right here just to get around Johnson and really get a high percentage shot. Sometimes he settles, but I ripped this so I could show it to the team about how little things you can do to use your body, and they like seeing the Raptors in action because we're a Toronto team. And so again, they can't help. because there's Lowry screening here, and Van Fleet's gonna come off the screen. So I guess Lonnie Walker's worried about Fred Van Fleet shooting a three, and he doesn't commit as much to the help as he wants to. So that's a little action that occupies the help, and that's sort of pretty much the small-sided game. If he scores inside, then he gets the bucket. If they have to repost, if they find a shooter or they re-attack, whatever it is, we play for 8 or 10 minutes and declare a winning team out of the group, out of all the groups.
Yeah, I really, really like that, Coach. Really, really simple, but works on getting the ball inside. And the other thing too is great coaching point here is what are those other players doing when that ball goes inside? What does their spacing look like? But also, movement. A lot of times the ball goes into the post, and at least at the high school level, you'll see the other players just stand, and it makes it easy for their defenders to get in and help and get involved. And that movement that you took us through with Van Fleet and the other players there, it makes a big difference because the help defenders, if they go in for the help, their players in a different spot now, and they might not get back out to them, and you're going to have an open 3-point shot. So it makes it very tricky with that extra movement. And I like that. And I like that about the SSG that you're also talking about too.
Yeah, I mean, off the weak side, Boucher dove here, and Anunoby lifted behind him a bit. I'd say probably what ended up happening for us in the game was the 45, the guy on the 45 would cut, and then the player lifts a little bit out of the corner, so there's a bit of a passing angle. But we were able to hit that 45 cut, maybe once a game. So we definitely don't want to stand back and let everyone double team the post player.
Coach, for the coaches who are watching this, can you take us through the 45 cut just so I think a lot of coaches will understand, but I bet there's some coaches that might be curious specifically what that cut would look like in that situation. Why is that? Why is it valuable? Why is that something that could be good for your team?
Yeah, so if you remember your math class, the 45-degree angle, right? It's going to be half of a 90-degree angle. So if it's going to be looks like a protractor. So we have in our offense, we have the corner. We have the wing, which is foul line extended at the 3-point line. We have the swing is a spot, the international key in the three. The other swing, the international key in the 3. The wing, right where the San Antonio bug is on the broadcast, and then we have the other corner. So it's probably going to be too crowded, if we just have 2 players standing here, or just one of them might not be that good of a shooter. And if we let if you stayed out here and you just let you would the defense could sag off you, and you're not doing anything to punish them. So what that might look like is someone here who's at the foul line extended dives at a 45-degree right from the wing, from the San Antonio 14 points on the bug, right down towards the rim, and he might be able to face cut, his defender if they're not paying attention. If they've turned their heads, he might be totally open. And also what that action does, you become a threat even though you're not a good shooter yourself. So if OG was a good shooter and our 4 cut down, maybe DeMar DeRozan's guarding OG, he has to go tag that cut, and it allows the shooter to lift behind. And so by cutting down here, you've occupied a defender, and then you've really made things wide open for the shooter behind them. So those would be 2 reasons to make that cut. And so just, I guess 45 degrees, I'm not sure. I'm not much of a math teacher myself, but I think we call it that just because, it's a 45-degree angle from the hoop. Nick Nurse will call it an umbrella cut in Toronto, because if there's 3 guys, one at the top, one at the wing, one at the corner, and the middle guy dives, he's like the handle of an umbrella. Like the 3 guys are the top of the umbrella, and the guy who dives is like the umbrella handle. So here's another small sided game. What I would say for coaches is, to be creative. If there's something in your offense you want to work on, find a way to make it play, 2-on-2 or 3-on-3, and get some reps doing that, because the effectiveness of your set is your ability to read and, make one play look like it's five different plays because of how people make a read. And so for a few years, I was running the circle play, sort of Mike Fratello's hawk action, as something, because our point guard was a good shooter. And so this was a small-sided game we could do, just to change things up. So it starts off with a UCLA cut. So if I were doing it as a small-sided game, I'd take the post here, I'd take the point guard, and I'd take Dwayne Wade, the wing, and we just play out of that situation. So he starts off, ball goes to the wing, and then he's going to rub off the big here, and you can be you can do different things. You can come all the way down to the block on that UCLA cut and post up the point guard. You could go high-low, like maybe the point guard comes down here, and then on the entry into the elbow seals, and you dump it in with a high-low. Or in this case, even the third option of setting a back screen, which he sets for Dwayne Wade, and then they pass it around, they punch it inside, and that's how they got the ball inside. So there's you're not using brute strength to get the ball inside, but you're just you're using your quickness, your positioning. There's a few different options here, and it's another maybe there's a mismatch on the court, or maybe they don't pay attention on the back screen, and it allows someone to catch the ball on the move and score inside. So that
Coach,
could be another
if you could
3-on-3 game.
if you could just play that through for us one more time. Something I'd like to point out here is the fact that you do such a nice job of you're taking actions like the UCLA cut here, and we're seeing this little 3-man game, which is a big part of basketball, right? There's 3 players kind of moving. A lot of times you have those 2 weak side players on the perimeter. So that's often what happens a lot in games, but you do a really nice job taking a game action, and that becomes your small sided game. And I think there's a lot that can be said about that for coaches that are watching here, because they get a lot of questions. I do, at least I can say, great, give me a great small sided game for this or for that. And a lot of times it goes back to, well, what do you do? What are your actions? What are you looking to accomplish? And you can really kind of make it what you want. And this is a really good example of it here. Is that typically, what you try to do? Or you try to take, this is what we need to work on, and this is something that I think, can be effective?
Well, that's one of the side outs that we use. Part of that's sort of the side out. And my girls' team, we would just kill other teams by back screening the inbounder. And then we started the guys' season. Like, why aren't we hitting that back screen? That was awesome. Like, we had the smallest girl on the team was just smoking people with back screens. And then we'd get, layups out of it. And then so it's like, okay, we're not seeing it. We're not confident we can make the pass in there. The person, isn't figuring out how to cut correctly. Let's go 3-on-3 and have at it. Because, again, it doesn't matter how the ball gets in there, right? Like, they have he back screens for Wade, and then maybe Bosch throws it in here right away if he could, and then or maybe they pass it back and forth. They just had to read the situation. Okay, now it goes back to the wing. He sees that there's this angle here. He could take a bounce towards the baseline and get a really good entry here. It just forces the players to figure it out and sort of learn to play off each other.
That's awesome. That's a great story too. They weren't hitting that player, and then you know what? You make it an SSG, and I'm guessing, did you guys take advantage of that UCLA cut a little bit more after you built that SSG into practice?
Yeah, well, then it becomes it actually ended up freeing up the point guard to come back for a DHO. So, but at least that cutter was taking someone with them, and then when the point guard came around to get the handoff, the player was totally on his back hit.
So, coach, is there, this is a great example of a really simple SSG, and you're working on a specific cutter. Is there any other SSGs or types of actions to get the ball inside that has worked really well for you?
Just through the high low. Like I think if you're watching the league these days, a lot of times someone will come to the post or come to the top of the key with the Lakers with Anthony Davis and Gasol. They're running a lot of high low, and that's just something we're doing for our zone offense. If we would punch it inside, we'd try to get a dive. If we went to the high post, we try to get a seal. And just these kind of getting the two guys, hey, your first look is to your partner. And here's just the idea, ball goes into Duncan and Tiago dives, that kind of getting them to make your first look is to your partner here, to get that as an action, and then the other to look for the high low. So here McRoberts sets the screen, he pops, and then we dump it right inside to Big Al. Just showing them that these options exist, and that when you get the ball in the high post, your first looks to your partner, and likewise, you get the ball in the block. Don't be so focused on scoring that you don't see all the other cutters around you. So a drill that I like to do that gets competitive is just 2-on-2. And the way I do it is the offense is just in front of the defense. The coach will be at the top of the key, just call someone's name, throw them the ball. There they go and they get it on the elbow, and then we try to hit the high low right away. If 4 gets it and thinks he has an advantage and starts driving, we do that 2-on-0 spacing where the 5 goes to the dunker spot or tees up. Or again, you might just call 5's name, hey Tim, just dump it in there, and have them start playing right away. And then 4 would simulate diving to the basket, and again getting a post to post sort of partner pass. And I don't think you have to be that great of a post player. You don't have to have tons of skill. You don't have to be really tall. We had a couple of really smart players, fortunately, last year who had a good feel for where each other would be. So, it wasn't a typical 4, but he was willing to cut every now and then, and he got some easy layups out of that.
I love this too, Coach, because as I said about some of the other stuff is, it's great. It's an action that you're going to use in the game with your players. And, I think of zone offense here too. Our zone offense, we always had a 3 out, 2 in, or often did, not always. And we like that high-low, opportunities we could create out of that. So this is a nice way to practice that. And I think coaches are looking for sometimes they think these SSGs have to be, really intense and a lot of thought behind them. And I think the more simple, the better, because those are the things you're going to do in the game. And this is a great example, as were the other ones that you've shared with us.
Sure. And just to finish off that thought, sometimes if you call like a horns 15, everyone knows that it's coming. They'll start hedging this ball handler. It'll be the spacing will be really tight, and it can be hard to pass directly to the screener here. So we might even just go, the top of horns, and especially, we just say whoever is the best shooter is going to pop. It doesn't necessarily have to be the non-screener. We'd probably define whoever's the best shooter pops, whoever's the biggest player and best rebounder rolls, and just have them work through that. Because in a game, one probably will get hedged when people see horns coming. So you got to be creative, and a little pass behind, pivot pass behind, and dump it right in there can just change up the angle enough that the post has a much better seal.
I have to think most of the coaches watching this have either used a horn set or planning to use a horn set. So again, another great example, especially for those coaches that are using this. And I think most have at some point in their career. This is a really simple way to work on a very, very popular action out of horns, and something that I think a lot of coaches can use. You make it a game, you keep score. It's fun for the players, and it's highly competitive too, which is what I'm seeing here. All these SSGs, you're working on a skill, but there's that competitive component to it. And I think, that makes it fun for the players too.
Yeah, I mean, that's my goal. I don't want to have to, make them come to practice and work hard. If it's fun and they want to see each other and they want to be there, and they're pushing their limits, and they're engaged, then that's going to take care of a lot of my coaching issues. And I think the small-sided games are a great way of, it just becomes, you don't even have to say, okay, now we're going to do something fun. Once the competition gets started, you're working on a skill, you're making decisions, and it's fun.
Absolutely, coach. And I think anytime, you have that competitive aspect, it does make it fun for players. And I feel like there's a lot of great takeaways here for coaches. I mean, for me, I'm just seeing, working on things that are going to translate into the game. And you can really develop your SSGs around simple actions like a UCLA cut or high-low action, and, that competitive component for them. And then really like the post moves, the sequences that you shared with us tonight, and, the video clips too. I think that helps the players to see them in action. But, I wanted to ask you, as we wrap up here, advice that you have for coaches, because, I think any coach would love, as you described earlier on in this video, you like to get those 14 points inside the rim run, the seal, the putback. So coaches would love to do that. What advice in your experience would you have for coaches that they're just looking to get more baskets inside and they're just not having success right now? What would you tell those coaches?
When I called up that practice plan, it reminded me of the quote that I had put in there as the point of emphasis, which was a Vince Lombardi quote. It's like, the measure of success is what you do with what you have. And I think you got to think about what you have, and how can we put that person in a position to succeed? Is it, that we can, have them cut, and be on the move. We can have them sort of read where their defender is and seal, there's more than one way to get into the post. And it doesn't have to be Patrick Ewing, going against, Dikembe Mutombo, there's, and if you watch the league, there's little things like, the ball's going to the elbow a lot, and that's a great time to cut, to try to get the ball inside. I'd say, just be creative and have it suit your personnel. I think we got to make the posts part of the game and part of the game plan. It frustrates me when I see a big guy who's just screening. Or one time with Team Ontario, I went to go watch one of our development athletes, and the coach had them in a 2-3 zone where he was the big guy, he was in grade 10 at the time, just standing in the middle of the key. How is that helping that guy's footwork, or that's athleticism? I think we got to make them part of the game. So, we're gonna call plays for them, and maybe it's the horns 15 and their touches are going to be off that high low, or maybe it's horns rip and we're going to set them a little back screen. It doesn't necessarily have to be just a big post up, but we're going to call plays for it, and the guards are going to be held accountable for getting the ball in there. Like, I think sometimes the guards look once and then they don't look again. We are telling the guards, hey, you have to get the ball in there. You have to work on your passing so you can get the ball in there. So I think if it's got to be something that you emphasize. It's like, I think maybe coaches write it on the board for pregame and call one play and it doesn't work, and then they never call it again. You're sort of telling your team that it's not really important, and you're telling that player that they're not really part of the game plan.
So, Coach, tons of great information here tonight, and I know that you also have a really great website. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to share that out, and also how coaches could get in contact with you. One of the things I love is the examples you give, the progression, and both of the times you shared on Get Better Basketball Live, you took us through the footwork, the on-air, the drills, the SSGs, and you gave really concrete examples. So I think you do a really nice job of that, and I'm sure that coaches are going to want to reach out maybe if they have some questions. So can you tell us a little bit about your website, and then also how they can get in contact with you as well?
Sure. Well, so my website's just my last name, bourgase.com, bourgase.com, and I kind of post my thoughts about coaching and also teaching. It's been a little bit busy because of all the teaching differences this year. I haven't been updating the blog as much, but I try to post, some informative content there. So that's bourgase.com. And on Twitter, I'm Coach Brock, Brock, and on Instagram, Coach Bourgase again. So Coach Bourgase, and I try to post, whether usually have time to do about 10 or 15 seconds a day, of a concept or a move that I really like that hopefully is educational for other players and coaches.
Well, that's great. And I highly recommend coaches check it out. I feel like it's been great talking with you. I appreciate you joining the Get Better Basketball chat each week, and now having a chance to talk to you multiple times about the game of basketball. I really like the way you break it down for coaches and, really simplify the game, but also, share a lot of different examples of ways I think coaches can help their teams improve as well. So just want to say thank you for joining me tonight. And I look forward to checking out your website and also hopefully having you join me again in the future.
Yeah, no problem.